It's been quite a minute since I've been able to enjoy a Far Cry game. My checkered past with the franchise has had my feelings all over the place. It's been the quintessential touchpoint for explaining my hot and cold relationship with Ubisoft in years past. Far Cry has been my Jenny to my Forrest Gump, claiming to have a love interest in me, sharing beautiful moments, and then leaving me with an unquenched thirst to go party with the drug-laden hooligans who don't appreciate her heart and soul the way I do, only for her to come back years later out of nowhere like shit ain't changed. Oh, it's changed, Jenny. It's changed. Look, I've been a Far Cry player since its Instinct Predator days on the Xbox 360, but back then, I was able to define what the franchise was. A single-player romp in the lush and foreign setting with impressive tech, impressive antagonists who've had the wind robbed from their sails before they could truly shine, and most importantly, a basic multiplayer suite made excellent by the presence of an impressive map editor. Historically, the multiplayer and map editor components shared a relationship that complemented each other quite well, even so much so that one would make the other's flaws tolerable and vice versa. I remember fondly the days of creating maps in the Far Cry 2 map editor and sharing them with the hundreds and hundreds of people who bothered to download and play them, but it wasn't perfect. Far Cry 2 played like I have some muscular disease while recovering from hyperthermia. It was super grating to play, with possibly the worst look acceleration in any game I've ever played, but it was completely worth tolerating because of the entertaining concept of playing maps made by other creators. Other publishers insist on pushing paid map DLC down your throat hole while splitting up multiplayer communities and then suddenly developing amnesia when the next copy-paste sequel reaches the hype critical mass, while players of the current iteration are still begging for support. Meanwhile, Ubisoft never asked for a dime of your hard-earned cash while the community supported the need for new maps by themselves. Far Cry 3 had a tolerable multiplayer component, even if it inexplicably removed vehicles in favor of some arbitrary team shout feature that failed to impress. But what hurt Far Cry 3 the most was that it tried to be something it didn't need to aspire to. Maps created by players were at the mercy of a COD-style lobby system that would randomly pop your map into the rotation. But with thousands of maps comprised of both junk and great creations, the likelihood of your creation getting traction is next to none. I spent more than a week recreating the location from Metal Gear Solid 3 called Groznygrad, only to see that it's been downloaded less than 100 times in the years since it launched. And with no other significant ways to share your maps with the communities, any creations are doomed behind the wall of chance that is this playlist system. And regarding Far Cry 4, we're not going to talk about Far Cry 4.
Vehicles in the multiplayer, there you go. Win.
You know what? Yeah, we're going to talk about Far Cry 4. This was the biggest setback in the franchise regarding the map-making community. No information before launch about either the editor, the multiplayer, or the relationship they shared, or, as come to find out, shared no relationship at all. The map editor was only capable of making single and two-player maps, while the PvP multiplayer was whatever this is. After that, the thriving map-making community ran cold and dry. Online websites dedicated to mapping died or grind to a halt, and with Far Cry Primal not even featuring an editor or multiplayer component at all, it was feared that this great community was dead for good, killed off by Ubisoft's prior neglect to listen to its fans. But years have passed since the sharp decline of the mapping community began, and with Far Cry 5 making waves with its compelling and politically charged single-player campaign, it's left the long-forgotten multiplayer community wondering, is it finally time for the Far Cry map-making and multiplayer community to make its return? If you know me and follow me on Twitter, you know that I've had some pretty public tantrums about Ubisoft's treatment of the map-making community. Those criticisms centered around their lack of communication about features and ignorance to feedback from the community regarding those features. This, I'm proud to say, has been remedied almost entirely. I have to really take a moment to congratulate Ubisoft for changing their handling of the community relations. A lot of the criticisms I had in the Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 days have been wholeheartedly addressed. The map editor and multiplayer were showed well before the launch of the game. Ubisoft had been talking and interacting with the community even before Far Cry 4 was revealed, and the staff have been regularly engaging with its own forum community, and even inviting some of my map-making bros to the studio to give them some hands-on time with the editor itself. So with all that said, here's some of the items I'm excited about for the new editor. I've given Halo 5 a lot of praise for its Forge mode and the capability that it comes with, and while it lacks terrain modification, Forge comes with a feature set that ranges from basic aesthetic modifications like weather, day-night, lighting, and other engine features, providing a ton of functionality. Far Cry 5 has jumped into this depth of functionality to really provide a feature set for creators that is borderline unnecessary, and nobody is complaining. Historically, Far Cry games have brought a certain amount of assets to the editor for map makers to use in a number of ways to create battle spaces for players to fight in, but Ubisoft have way outdid themselves this time. The Far Cry 5 map editor features over 9,000 assets to use to create maps. Go ahead, make the joke. And even better, the list of assets are no longer limited to pre-made objects, but also consist of a large amount of geometrical shapes that will make it easier to build whatever you want. These items are even able to be customized with a long list of colors and textures to boost creativity and functionality. And lastly, the editor features assets from other Ubisoft games. I mean, who even asked for this? And furthermore, who cares? Game assets from Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, etc. have been included for use in the editor. That's just, wow, I can't even. In no other Far Cry game before it, Ubisoft are promising a large amount of post-launch support, adding even more assets to the editor courtesy of the post-launch DLCs taking place in Vietnam, Mars, and the zombie apocalypse. Far Cry games in the past have received little to no post-launch support, especially for the map editor, so this is really out of the ordinary but very welcome. And while not the preferred method for sharing maps, between multiplayer matches, 3 players from the list of participants will have a chance to present a map they've made to the group in the lobby, for everyone to democratically vote on. This is certainly a better and fairer approach than Far Cry 3 in terms of getting your maps out there. But some of the map-making community have shared concerns about this being the primary method to gain exposure as a content creator. Well, because we've seen how a democratic process can provide a, how do you say, low-effort creation. But I can certainly see this being made better with the post-launch support that Ubisoft is promising. In closing, while I'm cautiously optimistic based on Far Cry's history, I've been witness to a lot of effort put forth by Ubisoft for their franchises lately. Rainbow Six Siege continues to be supported years after its launch and has maintained a healthy community. The company as a whole has been a lot more humble with their approach to their fans and their intellectual properties. For all the bitching and complaining that I've done about Ubisoft and Far Cry in the past, I certainly owe them credit when and where it's due. The Far Cry team has been very careful to ensure their message and interaction with its longtime fans is clear. Far Cry has been made great again. Folks, if you enjoyed the video and learned something new, like, subscribe, share, sing songs of praise for me, and mail me money. All that jazz that regular YouTubers like to spit. Thanks for watching, and for more coverage for Far Cry 5, No Man's Sky, and other games that hopefully nobody else is covering the crap out of, keep it here. See y'all later.